First Minister, there is an ever-increasing list of building projects in Cardiff dealing supposedly with student accommodation. In the last 3 years, there have been 23 separate developments opened, approved or put under construction in Cardiff. If you stand on the junction of City Road and Newport Road in Cardiff, you can see 8 separate developments, either under construction or newly opened. There are also now instances in both Newport and Cardiff of blocks of so-called student accommodation where the flats are being rented out commercially. The flats inside these blocks do not go to students because there isn't a big enough demand from students. Do you think that a suspicious pattern may be developing whereby universities and private developers are gaining planning permission for so-called student developments and then deliberately changing their use afterwards?
Well, of course, a change of use require an application to the local authority. If he has any evidence at all to back up what he's saying, I'd be glad to hear it.
Well, it is, as you say, a matter for the relevant local authority in part, but I feel that this is an area where the Welsh Government should be concerned, and I think you do have an important role to play in monitoring this. I have raised this issue with your Housing Minister, who said she's keeping an eye on this, but she did point out that it may fall close to the remit of your Planning Minister. So there is a danger, in my view, that this could fall through the cracks. We do need to look at why there has been such an increase in this so-called student accommodation. Currently, student accommodation is exempt from business rates. This is because the student flats are classed as domestic dwellings and therefore fall under the council tax regime rather than business rates. Business owners on Maindy Road in Cardiff recently found out that they will have to leave their business units to make way for a 6-storey building comprising 143 student flats. There's a motor repair garage which has been at this site for 40 years. Not only will this change have a detrimental effect on the local community, but the taxpayer will lose thousands of pounds due to business rates not being paid by the owners of the student flats. Is this not a case, First Minister, of universities and developers exploiting loopholes in the planning rules simply to maximise their profits?
He seems to think that people who live in private flats pay business rates. They don't. They pay council tax, just as students do. There's no difference. So I can't see what point he's trying to make there. If somebody purchases a flat in a block of flats that's just been built, they pay council tax, not business rates.
Well, I thank you for your answer, but there has been a certain amount of concern about this even within Cardiff Council. Cardiff Council's planning officer, Lawrence Dowdall, has recently stated that Cardiff may now have an oversupply of student accommodation. Planning Committee member Wendy Congrave, who is a Lib Dem member, described one recent development as a cynical use of the planning process. It's nothing less than a commercial development through the back door and must be resisted. We have developed too many types of these accommodations and, surprise, surprise, they are now being turned into commercial lucrative developments. I think you do need to be concerned about this because this possible flouting of the rules may affect your ambitions for affordable housing in Wales. Commercial developers, when they build new housing estates, have a legal obligation to provide an element of affordable housing. Developers building so-called student blocks are under no such obligation. So you could have universities working with private developers to get their properties on the commercial market by the back door, while all the time avoiding the need to provide affordable housing. Do you think your government should be having a word with the developers or monitoring this situation in any way?
Well, I think he should be careful here because he's effectively accusing universities of being part of a scam, in effect, without any evidence. I come back to the point I made earlier on. He has made suggestions. I've not seen any evidence from him to back up any of his suggestions, apart from what he says, but nothing to back it up. But I'm pretty sure our universities are not engaged in commercial property development when they have many, many thousands of students to house anyway. We should celebrate the fact that Cardiff and other universities across Wales have been so successful in attracting students from around the world, because they add to the research and learning capacity of those universities and ultimately add to our economy. So universities are huge drivers of the economy because they attract so many students, and I've not seen any evidence that suggests that universities are deliberately trying to build student accommodation with a view to then changing the use of that accommodation to make money through commercial property.
Question 3.